Oh, hello. Welcome to I Don't Know. We Can Talk About It, where we discuss various topics that come to mind or that people suggest for me to review. My name is Kevin Dufresne. We're going to jump right into this first topic. I hope all is progressing well. Chat GPT is on the table. I actually remember working in an eatery and a gentleman coming up to me saying along these lines that, man, I remember using ChatGPT and recommending this type of information for marketing, and all these formats and styles and contexts come about. And I'm like, okay, listening to this gentleman speak to me. So I decided to review the information myself. Of course, being in the interest of personal understanding, working in the field of education as well, I find ChatGPT is somewhat of a hot topic. How do I feel about ChatGPT, particularly in education? I don't think AI will be completely relevant in the form of ChatGPT. Not because I'm against the business, because when dealing with people, the reality comes in person to person, whether that is directly through a phone, directly in person, dealing with the product. We're talking about customer service at the core. Students, parents, teachers, everyone in a social system needs to be able to communicate well with each other. What happens with AI? Anything that seems to alleviate workloads, especially when it comes to anything that involves connecting people, i.e., a teacher grading a paper, creating an assignment, a lesson plan, a teacher having a meeting with the student about the topics from a personal perspective, not just from what an AI offers, is very different than simply being in an AI realm. I know some individuals want to use ChatGPT as assistance. The real aspect of research and critical thinking comes from realistically a person's inner school of thinking, which might come from a branch of a lot of different ways. I like to learn directly from a person. If a person, a teacher, an educator that I'm in a class of, tells me, this is from ChatGPT, I want you all to try this assignment, I might understand for research purposes, though I'm likely going to wonder about the person as a professor, as an educator, because that's where I'm learning from. I think ChatGPT makes more sense in realms of researchers to me, because in instances of work, a lot of researching requires knowing what other work is in the field. ChatGPT might know that, though the aspect of presenting the work, knowing it deeply, and being able to critically think about it through dissemination processes is very, very important from a person with an interest in research and education, and obviously the actual field of the work, whatever that might be. So I think ChatGPT really can be conflicting, especially in education. And I feel as though when it comes to preparing for another person, a different energy flows, which is very important. A person can offer a story, myriads of stories, in developmental processes that come from within, from oneself, one's person, one's critical work. Even if we consider critical work happens to create ChatGPT, that is meaning the critical work happening to create ChatGPT is extremely important and relevant for ChatGPT and possibly AI in other regards, though outside of that realm. That doesn't mean it's necessarily beneficial for anyone that might have to use the technology, especially since education does involve so much critical thinking, critical work necessary by human development in process, learning, AI learning, and practicality, replacing human learning and human practicality seems counterproductive, counterintuitive, as alleviating as ChatGPT might seem. I'm not attacking the business of ChatGPT, that which I do not know. I am thinking of the human self, the whole human. Now, this is a relevant topic, which is just one part of education. And I think it's super important because we're dealing with an ever-expanding, developing educational system that's involving other contexts, which some might consider outside of education, though branching right in or branching right out, connecting in our social realm in parameters of education that require individuals to critically think, to be critically aware of parameters of education, the social parameters at large. All right. With that, we're going to move on to our next topic. Of course, feel free to chime in on what you think about any of what I'm discussing at any time, because we can talk about it. We're looking at the development of Gen Z technically. I support tech development. I really encourage individuals to consider going to tech schools. Not just for coding, I'm talking about for welding, air condition work. If there are professional terms concerning the career paths, excuse me for not knowing them. Inform me, teach me, so I can learn about them. I'll likely look into them myself. Being a technician is necessary practicality in the world we live in. Likely relevant for many years to come. Whether that be plumbing, whether that be electrical work, an electrician. Tech is bigger than just coding. I think when I read an article discussing Gen Z needing tech development, I'm thinking maybe the article is not sharing enough information to say that it's discussing beyond tech skills that might be in relation to a laptop computer or a desktop computer, software. So I like to consider that tech is bigger than what tech might be growing popularly familiar to individuals in relation to coding, anything dealing with an iPad, an Android device, etc. I think what's really important is customer service. Today's episode really seems to be revolving around customer service. The reality is human service. Humans serving each other practically, reasonably, is on the table. There are billions of people before me that have come from harder ways, I want to say, respectively, to each one's own, yes, though times are different, though even in modernity, we face similar challenges in history, which might vary now, especially due to the internet, because a lot of people now can talk from a distance more so than in person. Am I correct? We do live in a digital world. We do live in a world where technology is very present and affects how humans communicate with each other. So I'm reading the article about Gen Z possibly needing more tech development skills due to feeling out of tech development at work, though to which degrees the article is discussing, that's in the air. Though tech is bigger than what I am finding in the popular senses, in the immediate senses nowadays. When it comes to finding a job, you're talking to, at least you're listening to, you're engaging to a degree with an individual with a master's in English, which I find is super important. I figure if a person has a degree in a language and can be practical, can know some ways to manage technology efficiently, effectively, can work with people, I think an individual will be all right wherever that language is thriving, whether that be even in a country where the popular language is not the language that the person goes to school with, or the company or whatever the person is requires that language and the set of skills that person has. So when I hear or read about individuals that need more tech development or people that are simply looking for work. The one aspect of employment I remember laughing about, I still laugh about this about 5 years later. A gentleman asked me why I'm not an accountant. An accountant always has a job. And I laugh to this day because every time I meet a person that either is an accountant or has a history of majoring in accounting, has a degree in business, focused accountant, they have a job. Which is to say, there are different areas of life that may not seem popular, that may not be on the radar, that one may just be in school for a particular area that's popular. I don't think is enough. I think for one to be in school for what one truly wants to grow in, it's sensible. For where one thinks that education can take them, or one can take their education with them to thrive in the way they want, which I think is a really good way to approach any form of mastery skills. Good. I just think certain emphases such as tech development can be integral for a team, a few people to know. Though when looking at the big picture, look at the big picture. Tech is bigger than coding. If you know how to code, though, it won't hurt. Like if a person is an electrician, it won't hurt. Balancing, human to human servicing, very important. So for anyone that might be feeling a bit down and out because of not feeling so in tune with modern technology or advancing technology, quote unquote, on modern and advancing, remember, the world is huge. Vast opportunities are available, which might require a passion that you might have. The reality with passions comes in tune with networking. For example, if you're an artist, the adage along the lines of starving artist doesn't have to bode with you. There are plenty of situations in which one can be successful finding employment within the field, close to the field, though one must know oneself. So when it comes to work, think about what you enjoy doing. We might come across this conversation again because employment is very important. Why? Well, it's important to work. People have jobs. People need to go to work every day. So we're going to continue on. If you have any feedback, any words, share it. We're going to hop into an origami session. We're going to talk about movies, and we're going to talk about a book, a familiar book. It's on the table, though I'm done with it now. So see you in a bit. Whoa! See you in a bit, huh? Just messing with you. Look, boom, we're going to get right into this origami session here. Today, I'm going to make something nice and simple. Of course, I like to fold, so pre-fold origami here. It's cool. Just a pre-fold. Corner to corner. This origami piece is going to be our cup. So the cup is interesting because the cup formation, the initial form of the cup, actually can go into two other quick origamis. Though I'm not gonna ruin that. So basically, for the cup, we just kind of go in here first, taking the four corners to each other. Then I'm gonna take one corner. The trick here is to actually take one corner to the center line All right, so take it to the center line. That's it. Take it to the center line, then take the other and fold it in. All right, so we're gonna fold it here, right across to this portion right here. Okay, now what I'm gonna do from here is, well, find that pattern. Then once we find that pattern, we're gonna take this a little bit more than halfway, and we're gonna just press it here. So now we can have an even fold. And I said at that point because I actually think we're making a regular envelope. So excuse me for calling on the cut part. So the reason why we do this, I just want to try to have as even as a fold as possible. So we come here, then we come here. So the next step though is I'm going to tuck one in the other. So the longer side is over. So if you get it perfectly even, just put one side in the other. Though I'm going to take the short sides, and this is the short side of the flat that was under the first fold one. I'm just going to tuck it in here. All right, boom, I tucked it in, and now I have an odd looking envelope. Judge it if you will. We can make it a little bit more perfect. So we're gonna make it a little bit more perfect by bringing this side over. So basically we have here cut in, we have here cut in, and if you feel like it's too long, then of course we're just gonna have a wide envelope. So I'm gonna work with this a little bit here, and boom. Okay, so now I'm gonna bring it in, sticking to the original plane here, bring it in. So another thing you can do is kind of just scoop them in together. You like roll them in together until you feel like you have it even up top, because I think that's what's really the main thing here. So then after this, when I say the main thing here is just trying to make sure that it's even enough so that it doesn't fall apart and that the big portion is enough. So what we're going to do next is we're just going to fold the bottom part in. We fold the bottom part in. It's actually very simple to make to me, I think. It's about 5 to 6 folds. And so once this is done, oh, you just kind of work that in here, work that in there. So I'm making the fold tighter so I can have the bottom portion so a little more firm. And then here we have it. We have an envelope, and that's it. So now the thing with this envelope is, well, you can just kind of you open it here, and then you close it just like that, and you have an envelope. And now, if you really, really want, you put something in it that's small enough, and you can just fold it in. And when you fold it in, bam, you have it. This is nice for little notes, and then when you open it up, you just tuck it out. What? It's pretty cute. So that's how you make an envelope. This is actually an interesting one. I like the hard envelope a lot, though this one is more private because you can just put a small note in, boop, and that's it. So cool. We are cool with the origami. I like origami. It's very important because it's good to do things with the hands. And origami, go figure, is good for one's brain as well. There may be more benefits to origami. Feel free to check them out someplace where you can find out. So, the 2 movies I watch. Oh, 80 for Brady. I really like 80 for Brady because the film is so joyful. It's so funny. It's so pleasant to watch. And, well, as a Giants fan, I like to be mindful of celebrating the Patriots. Though 2008, good year. No, the intensity of the game of football is fun. I really enjoy watching football. There are so many aspects of football I enjoy, and watching these 4 women this film is on the basis of a true story. Watching these 4 women make way to the Super Bowl 2017. I remember the game. The Falcons playing the Patriots. Oh my goodness. I'm hyped in the theater. Like, this game is one of the wildest games in my lifetime. As a Giants fan, of course, winning the Super Bowl twice is wonderful. Those are, I mean, the David Tyree football catch on the head, one of the biggest plays in the past 2 decades in the NFL. That's a big stage play. I'll never forget it. So, I think that game is awesome. I think the story is so fun. The acting partners fulfill the film so well. And I'm laughing the entirety of the film. Very enjoyable film. Very upbeat. And it's just sweet to be able to mature so well around a tradition that's positive, that's fun, enjoyable. I really enjoy the film. I like the aspects of maturity that come about in the film. There are no mistakes in the film. These women are set in the film. The dialogue is set in the film in a way that really brings individuals to attention about what might have to happen for a person to look a certain way, how a senior might feel, what seniors go through in a senior home versus being outside of a senior home. Very comical, the context that come about, though very wonderful. The idea that relationships can develop at an older age. I mean, I'm not saying I'm new to any of this. It's just really beautiful to see on screen. These functions happening across generations, of course, recognizing the human spirit, just humanity. A very, very beautiful film. I really enjoyed the film. I have no qualms about the Patriots at all. I think the Patriots receive a lot of attention for their Super Bowl prowess, yes, and Tom Brady. Shout out to the Patriots line, though. Just like, historically, I shout out the Giants defensive line. I mean, it's Giants D. On point, amazing when it's Giants D. And I think one aspect of the Patriots, their O-line, always stands out to me, because I remember thinking, Brady is super comfortable in that pocket. How does he have so much time to throw? In my days of watching football intensely a lot. Oh, okay. Very fun film to watch. Super enjoyable for me. Now, Knock at the Cabin is a film that is very deep in terms of content, though leaves me wondering about the context concerning backstory. We're dealing with 2 individuals in a relationship, which the film does emphasize a homosexual relationship, and we're dealing with these individuals that come with some random ideology about happenings in the world on the basis of their experiences. Then the film gets really wild, because it's like, what is really going on? We're dealing with a connection, a social connection, an experience at a bar, an attack on a person, one of the couples, one of the individuals in the homosexual relationship receives aggression from someone at a bar in the middle of a conversation. The film connects that, though it doesn't necessarily say what else happens aside from a glimpse that perhaps a word on a message board, some conversation online occurs, which makes these individuals feel a form of justification and find some form of reason for acting in the way they're acting. There are two sides in the relationship, one which the believing partner is falling into this state of wonder of perhaps certain situations are true, kind of resonating with those other individuals, whereas the individual's partner is like, this is not true, we don't believe it. And of course, all the while, they're there being the couple, the homosexual couple, have an adoptee, they have a child together. So this is a part of the film that gets twisty. The film is super twisty as is already. We're literally like, we're the audience are looking at the film, showing us basically the end of something. We're looking at technology falling from the sky. We're looking at planes falling from the sky. We're looking at people in chaos. We're looking at natural disasters, breaking news, pre-recordings. We're looking at all these things happening. Though, are we really dealing with the apocalypse, or are we just dealing with hearsay? Which I think is very important, working with the film, because we're all in the theater, the audience, receiving this information, and me, I'm like, what's going on? I know I'm not just able to listen to the news. I know I'm not just able to listen to these random folks, which I think is realistically a part of the intertwining in the film, the social message. The reality is individuals need to be living in their own lives, respectful of their own lives, not at someone else's door in a world not of their own, which is realistically what it's like in this film. There are so many social contexts to be mindful of in the film with the homosexual relationship. I think they are receiving support for their partnership. At the same time, I feel like there's a clear misunderstanding of what to do as humans. The film doesn't really touch too much on humanity outside of sex and death. I mean, we're talking about life. Yes, we're talking about life, though the catalyst for the film are just sex and death, which I get are topics that are somewhat popular. For example, there's a scene where the homosexual couple are at dinner with parents, and the parents of one of the partners, they're just sitting in the house. I mean, what else are you gonna do? You're not gonna sit in the house and expect anything to be good. I mean, do something. I'm like, okay, why don't I go to a park or something? So for me, those type of situations make it seem so grave. I'm like, okay, is it really so serious? At the same time, and when I say serious, I mean so grave. Like, I'm like, is it like, okay, like what you like, do whatever you're gonna do sexually, be happy, don't attack anybody, especially if it's legal. And the aspect of, this is interesting, the two going to pick up an Asian daughter at this facility where they're primarily Asian women. And it's like, in my mind, literally in the film, I'm like, this film is really bringing up a lot to think about. Like, you want an Asian daughter? Though, each one's own. I'm not judging these individuals. I'm just remembering the film, like, you want an Asian daughter, and there are all these Asian women around. I'm curious if they're single. And I think the film does a good job of bringing those points to the table. What the film shows visually is very, very important to analyze. The dialogue is important too because it brings us into the social realm of what is really going on concerning social messaging and just humanity. Do we not know how to be humans? Which is not funny. I'm laughing at the idea that how can one be human and not know how to be human? And I'm really assessing this in this practical way. I'm taking it seriously because I have to. So we move into the way the film portrays certain events, also violence in the film. There is an event, these individuals harm themselves. They put themselves on the line to see if, and I don't want to spoil too much in this film, it's just that it stands out in this way so much. It really makes me understand visually more of the film, though still leaves me in this, can we have more context? Because it feels like a film that needs more discussion than it does need for like enjoyment. It's not a film I think to just simply just watch and say, oh man, they knocked the cabin. But it's more of a film like, this is real. For example, here in this scenario, these four individuals that knock on the door, they come with their wild theories and behaviors, and the treatment of each is different. The individual that first receives the self-mutilation from his cohort, it's brutal, it's bloody, and race does come into play, and it's an individual of Caucasian descent. We see this brutal bashing of a Caucasian man that is the aggressor in the film, which I think is a play on the audience, because I think the film does try to touch on certain aggressions, certain aspects of social context that might be aggravating in a way that brings the audience to engage more, though also brings the story to the table, ideally, ideologically, socially. So we see that the head of this Caucasian man, it goes out. The camera work is wonderful in this film. I do give them that much. Aside from anything else, I think it's put together well. A Caucasian woman comes in. We don't see anything from the Caucasian woman. Is it the individuals like we're gonna save you from seeing that? Moves the body to another room and like this blanket. The woman of African descent's body, she comes under the attack of her cohort, and we see the brutality of her experience. It is the longest experience of all these individuals, realistically, in terms of experiencing brutality and exchanging. It's not simply the exchanging between the homosexual and the woman of African descent. It's the brutality that she experiences on film, that is set on film, without a similar dismissal as the woman prior. Then, of course, we just experience this brutality, this huge, strong man, quote unquote strong, that is really going through a serious situation. After all these situations happen, self-mutilation, etc., from the cohort or otherwise, then the homosexual couple has to deal with resolving a situation which is completely out of their control or seemingly in their control. So the film is not really a pleasant film to watch, though it does involve a lot of serious topics of our social realm. Perhaps what some might deal with as adults, perhaps is simply a part of different areas of life that some have to consider. So, a real tough watch. So on that note, we're gonna move on now to the book I'm reading. So I'm done reading The Purpose-Driven Life by Rick Warren. I like it. I do like the text. I like reading the text as a nightly devotional. I think there are subjective situations in the text that the text clearly advises and encourages to contemplate with other individuals in a group. The author doesn't write for an individual to only read this book alone. The author writes that journaling and just different forms of processing in group forums can be beneficial with the text, with questions that support and a lot of reflections that are useful. Of course, I'm going to share the final point, question, and Bible verse because I like to. So the point to ponder on the day 40 of this 40-day reader is living with purpose is the only way to really live. Verse to remember, for David served the purpose of God in his own generation. Acts 13:36. Question to consider, or questions to consider. When will I take the time to write down my answer to life's 5 great questions? When will I put my purpose on paper? And when will I put my purpose on paper is when one can address immediately without really reading this text, because this final chapter does talk about these 5 great questions. And I can read them quickly. What will be the center of my life? What will be the character of my life? What will be the communication of my life? What will be the community of my life? And so, looking at this, what will be the contribution of my life? All right, so I'm going to read these 5 again. What will be the center of my life? What will be the character of my life? What will be the contribution of my life? What will be the communication of my life? What will be the community of my life? So looking through this text with these 5 questions, we can look at the questions to consider again. When will I take the time to write down my answers to life's 5 great questions? When will I put my purpose on paper? Point to ponder, living with purpose is the only way to really live. Verse to remember, for David served the purpose of God in his own generations. Acts 13:36. I like the book as a part of my nightly devotion. It's nice to have a guiding book to contemplate with in ways that I might not be contemplating. It's a good way to offer my devotion a boost. And I'm really glad about reading the text. Thank you for watching. I don't know. We can talk about it. So the last month, really cool. First time doing the bookmark raffle. Really glad about doing so. Go figure, the winners are of the first individuals that actually share the bookmark on social media, which is really cool. So the idea is you post the bookmark, a picture, on social media in a highlight, a story, however, in a way that I can share it on my highlight permanently, or at least put it in the forums so we can continue to encourage reading and, of course, spreading positivity. I am glad about the individuals I meet that are using the bookmark. Awesome. I'm glad about the people that are just holding on to the bookmarks. Awesome. So I hope you use them. I hope your reading improves. I hope you strengthen your mind-body connection with the habits and processes of reading. I am looking forward to another video ASAP. Kevin Dufresne, onward and upward. Hello, I hope all is progressing well. Welcome to pHers.com, where the belief of expression, the choice to express in the public sphere, is to bear in the wild your choice responsibilities, where beyond anyone and anywhere else you will encounter yourself, thrives. I bring you here because on the main page you'll be able to find recent blogs, a few links to interesting stories, amongst other forms of creativity by Kevin Dufresne. Of course, if we go to the menu, you can get to the pictures, the music, the books I've read, publications, merchandise, and the form of pictures, and a little of about page about pictures. The form of pictures is where you can be an active participant, where of course we have the podcast, the YouTube channel, and discussion panels for people to join in and introduce me to a new topic to review, so we can further develop and just have interesting civil discourse. And of course, you can go to merchandise as well and be proactive in that regard. So, thanks for watching. I hope to be in conversation with you soon.